What's going on, everybody? This is Cube Guy back at it again with another Super Brawl 2 matchup chart. This time we're going to be going over the character Otis, who in my opinion is within the top 5 in the game. This was requested by Zenkai, professional Mewtwo player, best Mewtwo player in the world in Smash Ultimate. But we're not talking about Smash Ultimate. We're talking about Super Brawl 2, a real man's game, not for children. So I'm just gonna get right into it because you already know what I'm about to do. So let's just get into plus three. So uh, Otis tends to do really well against characters that can't get in on him, that are really large, and are limited to like one approach option that Otis can easily exploit uh, with his special move, which is one of the best zoning tools in the game. Obviously beaten out by Skipper, but Otis's Otis's Utter Blasts are incredibly powerful shots, and they cover a lot of screen. And what's really important about them is that they generate a lot of meter. So because he's really good at exploiting characters trying to get in on him, as he's doing that, he's building up meter faster than any other character in the game. So as soon as he gets his super special, it's basically game over for any of these characters that are trying to get in on Otis. So I'll just go over them like one by one. So Sandy can't do anything against Otis. She doesn't have anything good to approach, and her ranged option is too slow and doesn't have nearly as much range as Otis does. Timmy Turner and Jimmy Neutron are they kind of fall in the same sort of area where it's just like you can't really get in. Um, so I don't really see why you would try to play them against Otis. Let's just explain Plankton and Tough Puppy. So they kind of fall into the same category where they're just too big, so they get completely shut down, hit a ton of times, and they can't really avoid what Otis is throwing at them. And then the next two, I shouldn't really have to explain why they get beaten by Otis because it's King Julian and Kitty Catswell. King Julian is a broken character. He doesn't beat a single character in this game. He is the worst character in the game. And Kitty Catswell is very close next to King Julian for worst character in the game. These are awful characters. They don't beat any characters at all. I don't think that they're on any matchup chart, even close to +1. So they're down there at +3 just by default because they're just so bad. Let's go on to +2, where things start to kind of heat up a little bit more. So I put Ryu SpongeBob under SpongeBob this time, and there's a good reason for that. Ryu SpongeBob's Hadouken, while okay, can't really deal with Otis like you would want him to. So that's why I'm saying that Ryu SpongeBob is under regular SpongeBob right now. Danny Phantom, I put as only +1 for Skipper last time, but +2 for Otis, because Otis just doesn't like Danny Phantom struggles probably harder to get in on Otis than he does with Skipper. So there's not really anything you can do with Danny Phantom that you can do on Skipper that you can do on Otis. So Otis, is a very viable secondary if anybody is struggling for some reason with the Danny Phantom matchup, which they shouldn't be because Skipper is still the best character in the game, by the way. So let's go on to Rico. Rico, not that good at dealing with Otis. His projectile is okay, but in the end, it's still outclassed by Otis, so that's why I put him on +2. Sheen, he's in +2 for the reason why SpongeBob is in +1, but the problem is that Sheen has a bad kick, and that's what's really holding him back against Otis. So I'm going to get into why SpongeBob is in +1, but it's the same reason why SpongeBob is going to be in +1. And Bessie, I thought that Bessie would fare a little bit better. Probably, Bessie is almost in the same. Is like her range is incredible, but her special doesn't really do that much damage. So in the long run, Otis is still going to be outclassing Bessie at range, and Bessie isn't really going to be able to do anything to approach Otis or do anything to harm Otis. So that's why she's in +2 for Otis. Now, if we look at +1, we have SpongeBob, who has a good special move, which is his rushing kicks. They help get in on Otis fairly well. But what puts and Sheen has a running headbutt, so you would think that they would be in there for the same reason. But as I already stated, Sheen, his kick is a lot worse than SpongeBob. SpongeBob is a much better kick than Sheen, and SpongeBob's super special is also a lot better. Um, so that's why I'm putting SpongeBob in +1 against as in +1 in Otis's favor, just because I still think that Otis should be outplaying SpongeBob at any chance. Even at a distance, I still think that Otis outboxes SpongeBob. And so let's just go on to Patrick and Fanboy, who are in here for the exact same reason that they're just way better than Sandy at what Sandy does. So um, you know, I've already went over this with Skipper, so I don't really know if I have to go over this again. But they're just better at what Sandy does. That's being like a Dawson type archetype of a character, which is big range, non-approaching. But Otis has better range than they do, which is why Otis outclasses them and wins the matchup by 1. So let's just get into 0 or even, as I should have labeled this category. So in this category, I put Kyle, who I incorrectly named as Kevin, but I don't really fucking care. Then Aang and Dr. Blowhole, and they're all really in here for the same reason. Well, Aang and Dr. Blowhole are in here for the same reason, but Kyle is in here because he can contest with Otis, but his meter gain isn't as good as Otis's. But his zoning is basically just as good. But because Kyle wants to keep his opponents at a range, and Otis also does too, I just think that in the end it's going to come down to Otis's meter gain and Kyle's damage. So it's really an even matchup. Um, then Aang and Dr. Blowhole are basically in here for the same reason. That's that they have great defensive options against zoners. Aang definitely has a better defensive option than Dr. Blowhole does, because Dr. Blowhole's only comes up like once in a while. But I do think that Dr. Blowhole will outbox Otis when he comes in close. The thing is that Otis isn't going to be approaching. Otis is not a character that likes to approach. Um, now, now that that's out of the way, let's just go over to Otis's losing matchups. And they're only, I mean, you could argue that some of these are -2. They might be a little bit impossible. I mean, you might be able to argue that Chum Chum is -2, but Skipper, Chum Chum, and Monkey, Chum Chum and Monkey and Skipper, they're all nightmare characters. Skipper especially. Um, they're only like -1 just because once again Otis's meter gain is off the charts, so he can get around them just a little bit better than other characters. But well, like I don't even know if I really have to explain why Chum Chum is so good and why Monkey is so good and why Skipper is so good. I mean, like if you want to see that, just look at my Skipper matchup chart. Because in my Skipper matchup chart, I go a little bit more in depth on those characters, but um and I don't even need to explain the Skipper matchup at all because I already went over it in the Skipper matchup chart. But anyways, yeah, that's the Otis matchup chart. Um, you know, Otis, in my opinion, is still like top 5 in the game, but I mean his matchup spread isn't as good as the big three. Actually, no, the big two, and then Jesus himself, which is Skipper. But so he obviously loses to them. So if we just go off of that, I think that we can safely say that Otis is a really good character, um, and his matchup spread is better than most of the other characters in the game. Uh, I think that Otis is a very solid pick if you want to play a very good defensive game, and if you're really into throwing out super specials all day, every day, then you can go with Otis. He's a very viable character. Um, anyways, that's just my final thoughts on Otis as a character. Um, I'm going to get back to playing some more Super Brawl 2 I have to train for that tournament that's coming up. $10,000 prize pool, as you know. So um, be sure to subscribe for more Super Brawl 2 content. Be sure to like the video so that more people see Super Brawl 2, because the Super Brawl 2 community exists. We're out there. Okay, we are going to come back stronger than ever. And we're going to tell Nickelodeon that 3, 4, and World are all ass. And that we want Super Brawl 2 back. Anyways, that's going to be it. I'll see you later. Bye-bye.